And there's a few people in the room still, waiting room, so I'm just letting them in.
Good afternoon or good morning. Welcome everybody to this internationalization interest group. Just a few words before we really start this webinar. This webinar is recorded. We will ask you to stay mute unless you have something very, very specific to say or that you are a speaker. And to use the chat to be able to ask questions or comments or even introduce yourself, which is the most important thing at the start of a webinar. I'm Sylvia Russell, Head of Operation at Cambridge Cleantech, and I welcome you today to hear all about Canada. We have some great speakers, very distinguished members here, and from corporate side, from the policy side, from SMEs, both from the UK and from Canada. So let's start. First of all, just a little reminder about the chat and the questions. If you have a specific question, use the chat, enter and type questions in capital letter to start with, and then your questions. We will collect them and then ask them on your behalf at the end of this webinar. At Cambridge Cleantech, we really here to be able to make the connections between SMEs, innovators, corporates, academics, and cities all over the world. It's not just a Cambridge Cleantech UK small city here in the UK. It's all about making sure the connections are happening in the UK and beyond. And today, you just have to put your seatbelt on virtually, and we're going to fly to Canada, and specifically to the city of Summerside, and see how your innovation can help them to grow and have a better, greener city. So I'm delighted to start this webinar by introducing Megan Wood, Trade Commissioner at the High Commission of Canada. She will give us an overview of the Canada Cleantech landscape, and then we will go through a different case studies and opportunities just for you. And if you are from Canada and would like to be able to know a little more about Cambridge Cleantech and how to get into the UK, get in touch with us. But first of all, let's go to Canada. And Megan, it's all over to you.
Thanks so much, Sylvie, for that great introduction, and really a pleasure to be here with everyone today. So what I'm going to do is share my screen, and I just ask for someone to give me a heads up that is here, and I'll bring my slides up. Are you able to see that okay? Okay, yeah. Perfect. Well, perfect. Well, thank you again, everyone, and again, delighted to be with you today. So my role in the proceedings is, as Sylvie said, to give you kind of the 36,000 feet view. My role based here at the High Commission of Canada in London is covering the clean tech sector. So I'm part of what's called the Canadian Trade Commissioner Service. We are the commercial branch of Global Affairs Canada, and really our role is to create trade linkages and grow commercial relationships between Canada and whichever jurisdiction in which we are based. The TCS is a global network. There's 160 locations globally, as well as 6 locations across Canada. And so really between myself kind of providing the trade lens, Canadian companies into the UK, and our team that supports foreign direct investment into Canada, we really are a support mechanism to grow the trade relationship between Canada and the UK. So our team here within the High Commission is about 25 strong. It's quite a large group and very much represents the robust trade relationship between Canada and the UK. My role, as I mentioned, has me covering clean technologies. I do a lot of work, I would say, in the kind of energy transition that's taking place in creating more distributed, decarbonized, digitized energy networks. And I've also have my colleague Nadine Story on the line. And Nadine is very much the FDI officer who works with clean tech companies in the UK that are looking to expand into Canada. Just to note as well that actually our counterparts within the UK government are the Department of International Trade. And they kind of are within Canada are sort of like the me on the ground there, and are very much positioned and well placed to help UK companies develop the business opportunities and achieve international business development objectives in Canada. So a good resource as well if you're looking at Canada. I would say, you know, the Canada-UK bilateral relationship is strong. We've been close allies for many, many years. There's lots of bilateral and multilateral work together. Of course, COP26 took place in Glasgow in November, and there was a lot of engagement around the climate space. There's universal healthcare and a common legal system in both countries, and diverse and multicultural populations on both. And I would say that this kind of makes British companies feel very much at home in Canada, just like Canadian companies feel quite at home in Britain as well. And so, as I mentioned, my role is very much giving the 36,000-foot overview. I have 10 minutes. I'd probably use 5, so I will endeavor to provide a whistle-stop tour of this, but I would just direct your attention if there's any questions or desire to chat a little bit further after this, please reach out to Nadine or myself. So delving very quickly into the overview of Canada, Canada is the second largest country in the world by geography, 40 times the size of the UK. But I think kind of in the particular nature of the conversation that we're looking to have today, one thing that's really important to note is that it's a federation of provinces and territories. And that really does impact sort of the energy conversation in each. I've put some arrows there so you can see where Prince Edward Island is located in the Atlantic region of Canada. And we'll delve a little bit more into detail with my counterparts on the call a little bit later. But I would say kind of in that federation context, something to note is that within the federal remit, aspects like defense, banking, and immigration fall under the federal jurisdiction. But on a provincial jurisdiction level, things like healthcare, education, natural resources, energy, and infrastructure all fall within that provincial realm. And again, I just mentioned that specifically because it does actually impact a lot in terms of that clean tech and energy space that we're looking to engage in today. So moving on, just kind of very broad level, Canada is a gateway to global markets. There's 15 free trade agreements in place, and that provides preferential market access to 51 foreign countries. Of course, it would be remiss if I didn't note the fact that at the end of March, we launched negotiations with the UK for a bilateral free trade agreement. Currently, we're operating under the Trade Continuity Agreement, which provides the same access that took place under CETA, but we're moving into a bilateral free trade agreement context. And there is very much a focus on data digital elements and environment. So more to come on that. The second round of negotiations for the FTA takes place in Ottawa in June. And I just note kind of, you'll see Charlottetown right on the right, that's the capital of Prince Edward Island. In addition to being that gateway globally, Canada is also very well situated to many of the major centers in the US. And so those excellent little rings there show you kind of the proximity to a lot of very big centers within the States, especially on the Eastern Seaboard, with a lot of activity as we've seen in the news around the energy transition south of the border. But of course, we're here to talk about Prince Edward Island. So what I would say kind of in terms of my messaging, I really did want to just draw out some of the similarities and differences in the energy context. So kind of very high level, you know, both Canada and the UK have commitments to phasing out coal. Of course, there's the net zero emissions targets that have been set by both Canada and the UK. And I think kind of that clean tech sector focus amongst both is very similar, as well as that overarching desire to push forward on innovation. And actually Canada and the UK have an MOU on innovation, under which a program that I was involved in facilitating, the Canada-UK Power Forward Challenge, which looked at smart grid innovation, kind of sits under. So there's a lot of desire to push forward in certain innovative capacities. Both Canada and the UK, just as my mention around that Power Forward Challenge competition, really looking at grid modernization and decentralization to look at pushing forward with some of those cleaner sources of energy. And then I just note on the, linked to that is the commitments to decarbonize transportation and that transition towards electric vehicles, with both looking to phase out internal combustion engines by 2035 and 2030 respectively. But there are definitely differences, and I mentioned this kind of in my opening. I think one of the key things to note is that there isn't really a Canadian electricity market. It's very much provincially based. And so when you say, what does the Canadian electricity market look like? That's not really something that you can kind of look at holistically, because there are very different contexts province to province. So there is no Ofgem equivalent. Each province has its own energy regulator, and the energy mix province to province is also different. So for example, I grew up in Vancouver in British Columbia. We're over 90% large scale hydroelectricity. For me growing up, the term utility was synonymous with hydro. They were interchangeable. I would say that the difference in the energy mixes, the energy regulatory landscapes, means that there are differences in terms of opportunities province to province. We'll delve into some of the innovative things that are taking place in PEI and Prince Edward Island a little bit later in this energy transition space. But that energy mix really dictates certain technologies that are needed, certain challenges, what have you. I would say another element is, when you're looking at renewables in Canada, of course, here in the UK, the deployment of offshore wind is enormous. We're looking at, I think the energy security strategy noted 50 gigawatts by 2030. The offshore wind space isn't really developed as it is here. Really for us, it's the hydro electricity that's providing that large scale renewable generation. But the situation is changing. There's definitely regulatory changes, and the maritime provinces are at the forefront of some of those dialogues taking place for wind. So I just note the energy mix here. It kind of gives you an indication, as I mentioned, about that hydroelectricity, but also you'll note Prince Edward Island is very much wind-based, and I'm happy to share more information on this if there's interest, but I thought it was a good kind of overview of what we're looking at. And then just to conclude, some recent announcements. Budget 2022 included a new critical mineral strategy, deployment of electric vehicle charging across the country, and then some more drilling down into kind of the smart renewables and electrification pathways. So there's definitely a desire federally to push forward with some of these clean growth objectives. And I will, at this point, pass on to Derek. Sorry, no, the last thing, Nadine would not be happy if I missed this, but how can we help? So for UK companies that are interested in learning more, definitely reach out to Nadine and myself. I cover kind of the clean tech sector, and so looking at sort of what the similarities, differences in a Canada-UK context are. And Nadine really is your point person for, support on the ground in terms of potentially doing setting up in Canada. What sort of support mechanisms can you access as a company looking to establish a presence in Canada? Please reach out to us. We are very happy to chat more and provide further detail. So now on that, I will hand over to my colleague Derek, who is with the province of Prince Edward Island. So Derek, over to you.
Thank you for that, Megan. And I'm going to share my screen here, so bear with me while I find that. But I'll give a little introduction here as I stumble through that. So as long as you guys can see my screen, I'm Derek Ellis. I'm Director of Sustainability Division with the province of Prince Edward Island. I work in the Department of Environment, Energy, and Climate Action, and I'll be talking a little bit about how clean tech and our net zero targets go hand in hand. I've been working over the last 2 years on this file. We've got a legislated net zero target of 2040 here on PEI, so 10 years ahead of our federal target. Before I dig into that, I'll give you a little overview of where PEI is and what we do here. So we're the smallest province located on the East Coast, 165,000 population that relies heavily economically on tourism, agriculture, fisheries, though we're branching out in many other areas like clean tech. But we've got two large post-secondary institutions, University of Prince Edward Island and Holland College. We are connected via a roughly 13-kilometer bridge to the mainland, and our grid is tied to the mainland as well. So we rely heavily on our neighbors in New Brunswick for electricity transmission. That said, roughly 25% of our electricity consumption comes from on-island wind energy generation. So that's over 200 installed megawatts right now on the grid. And that gives you a little taste of PEI. And I just wanted to set the stage and give a little bit of context for our ambitions here and our vision to become Canada's first net zero province. So as I mentioned, some of that progress specifically in the wind energy development area over the last 2 decades. We've got some good leadership as well when it comes to waste diversion from landfill and energy efficiency and conservation. We'd like to build on that, decarbonize our energy mix by 2030. So we have an interim target of net zero energy. I'd be happy to talk more about and net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2040. Where we're at now, I won't spend too much time on this other than to say we're a little under 1.6 megatons of emissions per year. We've essentially set this target, recognizing that we want to achieve no more greenhouse gas emissions than we can offset through sequestration by 2040. And as you can imagine, that represents quite a challenge given where we are today with our emissions and our ability to sequester carbon. So our current policies will get us close. but certainly nowhere near the dramatic emissions reductions we need to reach our 2040 target. Again, won't spend a lot of time on this, but we've got almost half of our emissions coming from transportation sector, largely driven by our reliance on passenger vehicles here on the island. Agriculture representing a quarter, followed by buildings and waste. And I found it might be interesting for the folks on the call to understand that, while our per capita emissions are low compared to other provinces, our household emissions are among the highest. Our updated numbers actually, as of last week, see us as number 2 on household emissions. So those coming from space heating and transportation. We're still very reliant on fossil fuel heat and internal combustion vehicles on PEI. So I've spent the past year or so working on a high-level plan called the Net Zero Framework, accelerating our transition to a clean, sustainable economy. And what we've done here is developed sectoral targets and identified goals and interim targets along the way. And they'll be supported by some more detailed, roughly 5-year action plans out to 2040. One thing that may be interesting to you folks, I guess, not so much this busy slide. This is how we have structured that framework, that plan over 20 years. These are sectoral targets. There's a 2030 target, a 2040 target in each sector. We've got 3 overarching goals for each sector. And I guess the interesting tidbit here for the folks on the call is that the 3rd goal in each sector is usually related to clean tech, investment in early stage technologies, whether on forestry, agriculture, industry and waste, transportation, buildings. There's a commitment, a high-level commitment in each to invest and scale up clean tech and solutions that may not yet be affordable or deployable here on PEI or elsewhere in Canada. So that's a space that we want to be very active in, and we've recognized throughout this 20-year planning document as very necessary toward reaching our targets. And I'll spend a little more time on that note. I think some of the areas that we were interested in outside of the obvious, renewable energy generation and storage is carbon capture and storage and use. Any sort of interesting or novel building techniques, heating systems, transportation related innovation. I think anything realistically that can help us either A, reduce emissions, or B, sequester carbon is what we're interested in investing in, and recognizing that I think it will take a sort of a portfolio approach from our perspective. We don't want to put all our eggs in one basket necessarily, but have wide investment, and to make sure that those promising technologies that do become affordable, deployable in the near future, I think we'd like to position ourselves to be able to move quickly on those and deploy them locally in an effort to help us reach those targets by 2040. So I think I've given the speed version in an effort to stay under 10 minutes. I'll leave questions till the end. I know there will be a Q&A session. So looking forward to that. And I will pass the mic on to Mike Thususka from the city of Summerside. Thanks for your attention, folks.
Awesome, thank you, Derek. And I'll just start sharing my screen. So I recognize a lot of people on the call today. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to embellish as much as I normally do, because you'll call me out on that. And hopefully you see that. Yeah, so the hardest part of my job is trying to pack in 5 minutes all things great about Summerside. And really appreciate Megan and Derek kind of, I say, setting the stage in terms of, I'll call it our federal commitment to clean tech, provincial's government's ambitions towards clean tech and actually making a difference. And then I think what we're now going to turn our attention to talk a little bit about Summerside and trying to give you a sense of what it is that we've been trying to do in the last 20 years in clean tech. And I think we were in the clean tech before it was even a thing. So it's pretty exciting. I know Derek mentioned his 2040 plan, and as part of that plan, there is an ambition to grow 2,000 jobs in the clean tech sector. And obviously we like them all here in Summerside. I think we as a municipality are best known more so as a business than a government. And we try and take a business approach to everything that we do. And hopefully with the slides that I have, you'll be able to get a sense of the journey that we've been on, the systems that we've tried to develop to help hone kind of where we are. And the one final note I'll make about Summerside, for those on the call that don't know us, don't be fooled by our size. And I'll talk a little bit about our community. We might be 15,000 people, but we have a global reputation for getting things done. And we're pretty proud of where we've come from in the last little while. So again, Derek covered this quite well. Summerside, East Coast of Canada. One of the things that's unique about PEI that some of our local companies have been able to establish is we call it the 24-hour development cycle. And in essence, what's that mean is that you have a subsidiary in the UK or Europe somewhere, they're doing work, we're 4 hours behind them, they transfer that work to Summerside, they do the work in Summerside, and then transfer that work to the West Coast. So in all, it works very well in a number of sectors. And it's a perfect sweet spot, in our opinion, in terms of trying to create opportunities when you're looking at expansion. That the East Coast is nicely situated in that. So quickly, a little bit about Summerside. Our population is 16,000. We have a trade area population of around 48,000. So Summerside is a central location for business services. We also service a large pre-COVID, obviously, tourism sector. So our infrastructure is actually built for around 500,000 people, just because of the fact that we have this influx of tourism. 81,000 people in the labor force are within an hour's drive, and that represents about 75,000 people. Our main languages here are English and French, so we see a lot of companies that are engaged, obviously Canada being a bilingual country, a lot of companies that work in both English and French. Most of our population obviously has post-secondary education. And the one thing we are also known for in terms of our clean sector, so aerospace, we have a major MRO, maintenance, repair, and overhaul park in Summerside. Information technology, a lot of software development in healthcare and back-end development, light manufacturing, marine. Market validation, I won't get into because Allan's going to cover that quite extensively in his presentation. But in the last, I would say 5 years, Summerside's been known as, I'll call it one of Canada's leading renewable energy municipalities. So to put it into context today, 68% of our energy that's driving my computer, driving the lights in the room, comes from renewable sources. We actually got into the renewable energy game by accident, but now we're continuing to foster and grow that sector. This map here talks a little bit about how we came to where we are today. And one of the realizations, Summerside quickly.
I'm like, sorry, your slides are not moving.
My slides aren't moving?
No, we're still on page 1.
Oh, I don't know what to say. Holy cow. You let me know if they move yet.
Yeah, not yet.
Okay, well, let's just have a conversation. Can you share them for me then?
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Okay, I'll stop sharing. How does that work?
Okay.
It's always me, isn't it?
So here we are. So I'm guessing you were here or there?
Next one.
Okay.
There we go. Anyway, I missed so much great content by not sharing my slides, but that's okay. So this, in essence, how we got into the Cleantech business is it was all based on this chart. So as a group of senior directors and leaders in the community, we identified, aside from, Summerside, let's be honest, has some shortcomings in terms of geographic and size and location. And we said to ourselves, how can we as a municipality evolve and grow and become a hub of innovation and technology? And we quickly realized that our infrastructure that's built in the city of Summerside is actually the same infrastructure on a different scale than New York City, Chicago, London, UK, Bucharest, wherever the case might be. We have the exact same infrastructure, and in some cases it's actually more sophisticated. And so we went out to the market and created a program called the Living Lab. And we went to companies and said, if you're looking for first customer experience, you're looking for market validation in terms of trying to move innovation forward, then come to Summerside, and we'll open up our infrastructure and we'll dedicate a lot of our expertise and resources to help folks learn how to do business in North America. And we've been quite successful in that. And if we went to the next slide, I think it talks a little bit about some of the things that we are doing in Cleantech. So we have over 20 years experience. We have both the depth of experts and expertise. I think we've counted up, we have 125 years of experience inside of our own municipality, be it from wastewater management to renewable energy, to roads, water, or sewer, whatever the case might be. We've developed what we call a white glove service. And by I mean by that, the Cleantech space is obviously very crowded. It's very complicated. And so what we try and do is we've honed our service where we work with companies selectively. And when you come into our networks, we'll work with you to service you, give you the highest probability of success. And we've had some good examples what I'll talk about. We also offer what we call a soft landing environment to acclimatize people to do business. So in some cases, we've had businesses come here from the Asian market that develop products and services for Asia, but doesn't necessarily work here in North America. What we try and do is help those companies understand how to do business in North America and then grow their business in North America using us as their first market. The last point I'll make is we open up doors and networks across North America to make you money faster. Just because we're the smallest province, I always like to say we still sit at the big boy table. As Megan suggested, we have provinces in Canada. We're one of 13. That gives us as equal clout as the largest provinces in the rest of the Canadian marketplace. And we've, again, honed in on terms of trying to develop networks and that sort of thing. So we go to the next slide. Just quickly, the next few slides, for those that don't know a little bit about Summerside, just gives you a sense of the achievements we've made in the past 2 decades in Summerside. So we were the first municipality ever to erect a wind farm on PEI, and it's still in operation today. We were one of the first municipalities under our Living Lab program to do a first customer experience through our Living Lab. And those range from IT, gaming, billing software to actually municipal infrastructure. And we took those companies and allowed them to play with our infrastructure, allowed them to own their product or service, and allowed them to grow their businesses in North America. 2010, we figured it out that we needed to sophisticate our approach. So we launched the Living Lab program, which allowed people to have a more formalized approach. We also understood that renewables need a way to communicate to kind of utilities and other things. So we started to build our own fiber network. And then we were one of the first adopters of EVs in Prince Edward Island. It was a challenge to get to that point, but we invested heavily in electric vehicles as well as charging systems as well. So I think we were one of the first municipalities to actually kind of get on that EV bandwagon. And we'll go to the next slide. In 2015, I mentioned this a little bit, we partnered with a Chinese LED company that was looking to break into the North American market. We actually allowed them through a first customer relationship to retrofit all of our roadway lighting. We also embedded an engineer with the company so that they could do North America product refinements. And then we helped build a business case for them and a sales pitch so that they could go to other utilities and municipalities across North America and have a more refined and polished approach to sales. Because selling to utilities, selling to municipalities may be a little bit different in China than it is in Canada. And so what we tried to do was help them develop their overall package and pitch. We invested 2017 in a university startup. So we put both cash and facilities into this startup company that developed heat pump technology. This company has been able to get 3 rounds of VC funding to help their business grow. And we're continuing to look at partnering with those as well. 2018, you're going to hear a little bit about a partnership with an artificial intelligence company for renewable optimization. We also partnered with a local EV company that's doing EV conversions. And then finally, one of our proudest moments is we've partnered with Samsung Renewable Technologies out of Seoul, South Korea. We undertook a first in the world project with Samsung back a number of years ago, and we're currently under construction of our $65 million solar battery project currently in the west end of Summerside. So we're pretty excited about that opportunity with Samsung, and we continue to work with them on moving our community forward. And we'll go to the next slide. So quickly, and I'm almost done here to pass it on to the real showstoppers, is these are some of the things that we're looking at in terms of areas of exploration with companies, areas of innovation that we would like to drive into the city of Summerside. So again, electric vehicle, electric storage, solar, hydrogen, advanced IT. So these are just some of the things that we're trying to do as a municipality, trying to move the needle forward. And we'll go to the last slide. So again, when you think of Summerside, we like to think that we don't make promises, we actually deliver on solutions. And we are your one-stop shop for doing business, obviously in Summerside, in Prince Edward Island, and in North America. So we don't just help you get started and established, we're actually in it for the long haul. Our approach has always been to help you grow in North America. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Allan Smith, who's going to talk a little bit about Summerside Exchange. And Ariane, you're going to have to try and share. Do you have Allan's slides or no? Yeah. You should have Allan's slides.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Okay. So if you can share those, I'll wrap up.
That's perfect. Thank you, Mike. Again, my name's Allan Smith. I work with Mike here at the city, really kind of on the innovation agenda. Been in economic development for, geez, a long time, probably 30, 35 years, mostly on innovation and new product development. Over that period of time, I worked on a lot of different projects, met a lot of great people, and I'm always surprised about the attitude of business people that are working in the innovation space. They really are kind of go-getters and want to get things done. So again, I work for the Exchange. We're a business accelerator in the truest sense of the word, and we get real and practical very, very quickly. Next slide, please. So we work in this ecosystem, a companion map, if you will, to Mike's piece, and this is made up of businesses and infrastructure.
I think you're on mute.
There you are. You should be good now. Can you hear him?
Yeah,
Hello?
I can hear you now.
You're good now? So again, I'm not sure how much was there, but Allan Smith, I work for,
No, you're.
I already got through that, okay. So this is made up of facilities and infrastructure, Cleantech infrastructure. And again, as Mike has said, you kind of forget how long you've been doing this until you start looking backwards. And City of Summerside has been doing this for 20 years. So there's a lot of good systems and tools and learnings associated with how you practically roll out new products and services in the clean tech space. So we still have lots to learn, and we're humble people, but we take our learnings pretty serious. So the most important piece about this infrastructure is the people that are around it. And as Mike has said, the city really takes a business approach, a very practical approach. And that first customer experience is a very powerful experience, tremendous amount of learning. Our goal is to be your first customer and to continue to be a customer. That's really success from our standpoint, is that if we're doing our job well and we select the right partners and moving forward, it becomes a first customer sale, but we also want to be the downstream customer sale too, because that means there's commercial opportunity and the ability to scale and scope from the city of Summerside into the bigger market of North of Canada and North America, the US. Next slide, please. So this is a slide that I'm kind of showing you in behind the curtain here a little bit. We really focus on 3 different areas when we talk about commercialization. Everybody thinks it's a black box, but it's not. It's just a lot of work. Obviously, there's 3 components here: the product, the profit or the money model, and the promise. The product is something you'd all be familiar with. Anyone in the tech space really focuses and usually is very good on the product side. But we work with our partners in piloting proof of concept, validation, solving a problem. And we do that we want data. We're looking for data as the evidence and the proof point, which helps us in the marketing of the promise side. There's the profit on the left-hand side, which is the customer, the money model, the pricing. And recently there's been a lot of innovation in around business, how people go to market with different products, and the IT folks are really kind of driving some of those innovation on a business case standpoint. The right-hand side is really the marketing of the promise side, because that's what marketing is. We're promising something to the customer. So we're looking for proof of claims, and data is the gold standard for proof. So we work with our partners in looking at data and evidence to support claims, features to benefits, launch materials, feedback loops with customers, and we really focus on inside the marketing, understanding the problem at a much deeper level, making those promises to the customer and providing proof so that we deliver. So at any one point in time, we tend to focus on one of these areas, but as soon as it's kind of like whack-a-mole. Once we resolve one issue, it usually changes another. So we're constantly thinking about these 3 components of commercialization as we're working on one specific area. So it is challenging. This triangle could be very wide at the bottom, very sharp at the top. Every product, service has a different model for commercialization. Different customers, different promises, and different proof points. The one that most technology companies really focus and spend a lot of time on is product. And our experience is the piece that probably gets the least attention, undeservedly so, is the promise or speaking to the customer. And that's really one of the key deliverables that we have when we work with companies, is getting that customer experience in a truthful way. Next slide, please. Our clients, I won't spend too much time here, but I mean, we're in the ditches of innovation. So it becomes very practical, very quick. We look to resolve problems because we could be your first customer. Ideally, we want you to then export and scale outside of the city of Summerside, outside the province of PEI, into the North American marketplace. So we typically work with companies that are further down the commercialization line, technology readiness level 7 to 9, Cleantech solutions, scale and export into the US and Canada from Summerside. And again, very practical approach from the standpoint is that we want to get to yes, no, or yes, but very, very quickly. So we want to fail fast and fail cheap. I know some people don't like the word fail, but we want to be able to understand where problems and issues are going to arise so that we can resolve them in a very quick manner, focusing our efforts and resources, often very limited at this stage, towards the death threats or the issues that are really going to cause the biggest problems for commercialization and introducing that product into the marketplace. So again, back to that commercialization triangle, that visualization of product, promise, and profit. Next slide, please. Our partners, we've got a lot of reach. Mike with the city had mentioned a lot of the infrastructure that's available. But we also have residential customers, obviously, business parks. We have over 900 businesses to kind of tap into. We've got great partners in the province, both from kind of policy side and delivery with the net zero piece, but also the business development groups are very powerful in our province, and we work really close with them. International board, which I'll talk about later, actually in the next slide, and we partner with our local research organizations. As Derek had mentioned with the province, you can kind of get your arms around this, if you will. So we know, we kind of, I'm not gonna say we know everybody, but we partner very well in our province. We collaborate very well. And someone who's been around for 30 years, 35 years in this, we have very meaningful conversations very, very quickly. So again, getting to market, getting to the learnings and the cycles and trialing and first customer experience are all kind of familiar to us. Next slide, please. This is just to let you know it exists. These are some pictures of some of the infrastructure that we have, public-private infrastructure, and as others before me have talked about, is the renewable inventory in Summerside and PI is robust and growing. We are early adopters to this technology, and as Derek and Mike and others before me have mentioned, both Canada and the province and the city is embracing this. Next slide, please.
And just conscious of time, 1
Yeah.
minute.
This is our board, some great folks. These are US, Central Europe, and a couple of Canadians, just to keep everything honest, if you will. But this board is a tremendous amount of experience in funding innovation and creating innovation themselves with innovative products, and are great supporters to what we do. And in many cases, some of these folks actually get heavily involved in some of our clients. Last slide, please. We have a couple of 3 open innovation challenges. The city is aggressive enough to say that these 3 things: net zero charging for light duty vehicles, fuel cells for fleets, heavy vehicles, and premise storage devices for residential, commercial, and industrial, are open innovation challenges that are available right now on our website, www.summersideexchange.com. We're looking for solutions. We're looking for partners to resolve some of these challenges that we have inside the city of Summerside that are worthy of solutions. So if either you or a colleague or a friend or family is in this space, we're interested to talk to them. Thank you.
Thanks. And now we're going to go to Dr. Maciej from WindTAK.
Okay, hello everyone.
You're here, yes.
Share my screen. Just a moment. I'm just having some difficulties.
In the meantime, just, if you have any questions, type them in the chat and we will ask them at the end. And if you haven't introduced yourself, go ahead, use the chat.
So hopefully you can see my screen by now.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. So my name is Maciej. I'm the CEO of WindTAK, where we develop technology 5G VG by WindTAK. Just a word about that before getting on to some of the other slides that I prepared. We are active in the wind turbine industry. We developed an IoT device that is housed inside a small aerodynamic aero fin that you see on the slide. We put these on wind turbine blades. Up to 50 of them are deployed per blade to improve aerodynamics and to measure the vibrations of wind turbine blades, and therefore we are able to actually combine 2 things in one. So the energy goes up from the existing turbines while we have a constant monitoring, or what we call an electronic ears and eyes on turbines, even the older ones. We use the gateway of our design and production to actually get the data and push it onto our cloud through 5G technologies or narrowband IoT technologies or LTE networks, wherever possible. And PI being an island, obviously always in looks for energy is a perfect place to land and a perfect place to cooperate with. Sorry, I think this is not the slides that I meant to share. Okay. All right, I think that I'm having some technical difficulties. Orion, can I ask you for help? And
Yeah, no problem.
the slides on the number 3 here. Sorry, guys.
Just give me a minute.
So just going on, we actually started with the cooperation with Summerside through Pitch and Bridge Summerside event that we actually made a runner-up position to that several months back. We actually quickly got through the City of Summerside Exchange Accelerator to meet Allan Smith, that was just the previous speaker. And just to give you a time perspective, this was about 3 months where we signed the agreement with the Exchange Accelerator. That was back in November. And the application was quite easy. The process was really helpful. The City of Summerside has been very helpful to us throughout the process. We were quickly introduced to an early adopter of our technology. This is a local wind energy institute of Canada, which actually has 5 wind turbines for research, but also in a utility sort of manner. And we were invited to make a pilot on that facility. And the next step was actually to be able to talk to the city officials that actually managed the wind farm. I think it was shown on a couple of slides before. And we were invited to submit an offer, which we are now preparing together with Exchange Accelerator. And believe it or not, this is all possible from where I sit. We actually based in Poland, in the city of Łódź, central Poland. And in about 2 months, not even, we actually come over to Summerside to install the pilot site, to begin talks about opening an office in the Summerside and take it from there. Ever since, the city has been helpful. We've been able to engage in talks with the members of the community and have a chance now also to be able to participate in a local ignition startup fund. This is a fund designed to back financially the most promising startups, the most promising ideas, and support us through our first months on the island. And indeed, this has made a lot of things possible, because we also are able to engage in talks with one of the venture capitals in Northern America, to be able to see how that particular money can work for us abroad. Not only this, we've been given a lot of support to talk to the local Polish trade agency. I'm sure there's similar vehicles in UK, where additional support to Canadian financial support is possible from the Polish side. So all in all, I can only say that this has been a really good experience, something that I would not expect where I first sat down to fill out an application. And believe it or not, it has been successful. We're going on and looking forward to meeting everyone there on the island in person. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was really interesting to see you, to hear about your journey. I would like to welcome now Bluwave-Ai, Devashish.
Great, thanks. I'm Devashish Paul. I'm the CEO of Bluwave-Ai. Let me just share my screen. And while I'm bringing my screen up, what I wanted to do firstly is just concentrate on one of the statements that that Mike made from the city of Summerside, and that statement was they get things done. And in the energy market, there's a lot of people who stand around and do a lot of talking, and they never actually get to the start line of anything. And or if they do, it takes years and years. Now, as a tech startup, and we'll go talk about a bit about our company, we don't have capital to burn dealing with people who just sit around and talk and don't do anything. And I'll start with my slides, and I'll delve into what our company is all about, and the journey that brought us into collaboration with the city of Summerside, and why you need to work with people like this, ideally, specifically in Summerside, particularly, private investor-backed tech companies. We can't waste time with people who don't accelerate our growth and our ambitions. So the blue in Bluwave-Ai stands for our climate. So the blue planet is covered by 70% of water, and that's what controls the climate that we deal with. The wave stands for hopefully green and clean electricity waves, powering our homes, our vehicles, our industries, our centers of learning, our hospitals. Our company is a purely software company founded in 2017 that basically takes data out of our energy and transportation customers and predicts, optimizes, and controls how energy is utilized. We're one of the top clean tech startups in the world globally. We have 12 US PTO patents that have been filed in the area of real-time optimization of renewables and EVs. 3 have been granted. We ran the first ever Canadian market end-to-end AI-enabled dispatch, and that was at Summerside, as well as in the Indian utility market. So before I go to the next slide, let me just give you some background on what ended up happening and why we converged on Summerside. So our company is a data intensive company, and there needs to be assets on the ground to generate data with. So if you saw that slide that Mike showed of the layout of the city of Summerside with all of the different assets, you start seeing the picture, because those assets would be generating data. So let me go to the next slide, and then I'll tie it back into Summerside, next few slides, and I'll tie it back to Summerside. So we won several awards worldwide, won the Smart Grid category at the World Energy Congress. We were one of Deloitte's Fast 50 technology companies to watch last year in the Startup Energy Transition Awards run by the German energy agency, DINA. We were top 3 finalists in the digital energy category. And we won the Diamond Award in the India Smart Grid Forum Awards last year for the innovation that we did in Tata Power in Mumbai. So now let me go to an electricity network and just talk about how this ties in with Summerside. So in a traditional electricity network, you had carbon emitting energy generated from coal fire, gas, diesel power plants just in the top of your picture. And in the bottom of the picture, you had the loads from our homes, from our schools, from our offices, from our industries, hospitals, universities, and so on. The energy is generated at the top, it's used at the bottom, right? And in the traditional view of Summerside, energy was generated in New Brunswick, and Summerside was at the receiving end using energy that they got from New Brunswick. Now, fast forward into the new era, and a lot of the world still operates like that. And at COP 26, they were talking about where the world needs to go. So that's onboarding more wind and solar energy, both at a generation level and at the local level, right? So now you got this fluctuating renewable energy that you have to deal with when the wind blows and the sun shines. And that is challenging managing a grid. On top of that, add EVs and EV fleets and people randomly charging and the gas station becoming your electricity grid, and that becomes an even larger challenge. So you need to basically predict, optimize, and control how energy from different sources are used and how loads are consuming energy. And that's where the Bluwave platforms kick in. Okay, so now, great, you want to onboard more renewable energy from the generation level and the local level. And ideally, you want to get rid of the carbon emitting energy. For that, you need real-time intelligence to take care of all of this. So what happened when we started Bluwave was we started looking around Canada and North America, and we're like, who has all this? Right? So we're headquartered in Ottawa, Canada, the nation's capital. So we went and talked to our local utility. They had a bit of this stuff. We went to Toronto, and it's nowhere near this picture. Same thing in Montreal. I mean, Hydro-Quebec has this overall. Go all across the country, and no one had this whole picture contained inside their utility. And we got told by Natural Resources Canada to contact the city of Summerside. And they said, those guys, they actually, everything you need, all those assets you need to build your platform, all this blue stuff in the middle, they got the platform and the data to do it. So we went and talked to Summerside. And before you know it, in 2018, we set up a partnership and we started giving it a role to see if the AI system could basically create an end-to-end AI optimized smart grid in the city of Summerside that would serve as a tile for what needs to happen globally. So while people at COP26 were talking about this as a path forward in 2021, many years before that, Summerside already had the vision. They just needed the Bluwave-Ai overlay to automate the whole thing. So what does our platform do? We take data from grid assets, market and environmental data and fleet data, send it up to the cloud, and then we send grid optimization signals and dispatches and EV optimization signals and dispatches. We have a central cloud-based platform that controls all of this across our customer base worldwide, and a database that hosts all of this to basically continuously improve the performance and basically make small savings that's visualized on a dashboard, 500K better decisions per year than a human system can make, all automated in real time. And we did this in the city of Summerside. It hasn't been done anywhere in Canada. Last year, Mike and I announced the first AI-enabled end-to-end smart grid with wind, solar, battery, diesel connection, load, metering, weather feeds, and an upper grid connection exposed to real-time market pricing. It has basically everything in Summerside that is needed to operate any energy grid worldwide, be it in India, be it in the UK, be it in the United Arab Emirates. And the cool part is the AI models we developed in Summerside, we have then subsequently deployed them in the Indian market. We've deployed them in Scotland. We've deployed them in Georgia. And imminently, we hope to be able to announce that we will actually be optimizing 9 transit depots for one of North America's largest electric vehicle fleets that will all leverage all of this foreground AI models and optimizers, because a transit fleet is a microgrid that has a variable battery storage load in the vehicles, but the rest of it is all a microgrid, just like at Summerside. So that's really the cool thing. We got customers worldwide. I won't take too much time talking about them. I hope the slides will be available from the organizers. We announced in 2019 this International Smart Grid Consortium led by, at the time, Environment Minister Catherine McKenna, of which Summerside was a key kickoff customer to do it at. By November of 2019, we announced that this was working. Last year, we announced the end-to-end AI-enabled smart grid in the city of Summerside, laying the tile of what everyone's talking about at COP26. So you don't need to go invent it. It's all done already. And we kicked off our smart grid Canadian Smart Grid Center of Excellence in the city of Summerside, leveraging the leading lab, the living lab, the highly capable staff at hand in the city and the utility, and the real-time available assets on the ground that are available at Summerside. So we believe that we will be able to leverage this smart grid excellence so that other Canadian utilities, industrial customers, and universities can basically onboard AI into their system, leveraging everything that's in Summerside and our cloud platform. So that's basically the top level view. I'm personally quite grateful that we had some forward-looking peers in the city of Summerside who also have the get it done attitude, because that's how we become world leaders in the energy market globally, and create a unfair share of global wealth for Canada and those who want to partner with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, so we are running slightly out of time compared to the agenda, but it was very important to hear from all of you. So thanks to all the speakers for sharing your experience and your knowledge on going to Canada and what you're experiencing specifically in Summerside City. Before we wrap up, we still have time for Q&A, so it's quite important that we go through them too. And I would like to start, first of all, with Megan. So what practical ways can you help me to determine if Canada is a good place for me? Is there any market studies, for example? And at the same time, I would like to add a question from, hold on, from VTOL, Ashley, and it's about, if we go to Canada, is there any help in terms of finding technical personnel, for example, technical staff and high quality, high skills people to help implement solutions?
Thank you for both of those questions. So I guess just on the first one, there is material. Actually, it's a little bit, I mean, it was 2018, I believe. So 2018 is now in the mists of time, pre-COVID. But actually, the Canada-UK Power Forward Challenge that I mentioned, there were studies that were done and reports that were facilitated on the UK market as well as the Canadian market. Just providing an overview of sort of the landscape. So happy to share that. But there's also, there's a number of different kind of materials in terms of, what the market landscape looks like, both from sort of the National Energy Regulator in terms of sort of that provincial breakdown that I mentioned, as well as within Canada, we have a Clean Growth Hub, which is really the come together of a number of different departments federally around some of the innovative developments that are taking place in the clean growth space. So between that, there's a lot of information that can be shared, very happy to provide it afterwards if that's of interest. And I think, Sylvie, the second question was, how can we access good talent in Canada? Was that the second question?
Yes.
Okay. So Nadine is probably a better person to connect with on that. But I would say that one of the programs that is actually really interesting is called WindTAK, and it is sort of a link between post-secondary institutions and some of the sort of talent that's coming out of these institutions in Canada and specialized in very technical spaces, and partnering and kind of connecting with innovative private companies. So again, happy to share more information on that. And it's a program that, you know, for those companies that are investing in setting up in Canada, we're able to make connections for. So that be one of them, and one that kind of springs to mind for me. I would say, you know, as a result of, again, the provincial landscape, each of the provinces as well would have their respective support mechanisms in terms of sort of matching talent to companies that are looking to invest in and finding appropriate placements in that respect. So hopefully that provides a bit of insight. I don't know if any of my colleagues on the call, Derek or what have you, want to kind of attend to what that looks like from a PEI perspective. But happy to share more information offline because I know that we're very short on time.
Thanks. I would like to reassure all the delegates, we will be sharing the recording, the slides, and any extra notes within the next few days. So any questions that we will not be able to ask today, we will also make sure that, you know, you have an answer within the next couple of days. Thanks, Megan. I have a question for Derek. I was personally quite excited to hear, you know, an island that is the zero carbon solution island is something that is, you know, it's magical, almost hard work, but magical. And I was wondering if you are modeling from other jurisdictions and if it's how hard or easy is it to accomplish your goals?
The short answer is yes. So our Minister of Environment, Energy and Climate Action, I think, was very inspired by a visit to Europe, and specifically Samsø Island in Denmark. While much smaller island, both geographically and population-wise, I think we would be roughly 10 times the population there. I think what he realized upon kind of seeing that in the later stages is that it can be done, and it can be done using a lot of the technologies that we're already deploying here, I mean, not all of these are advanced technologies. I mean, it's building envelope upgrades, insulation, you know, fuel switching on heating systems, things like that, and then powering the grid with renewables. I believe they've got some extensive wind generation. There are other, I think, islands that we would be looking at, like Hawaii, that's trying to rapidly decarbonize, though the context is a little bit different in that we do have that transmission line to the mainland. So we don't necessarily need to be energy independent, but that's another, I think, ambition of our political leaders here, is to be more energy independent with on-island renewables and integration in the grid. So I mean, those are only a couple of examples, but I think any other jurisdiction that's further along and has kind of a similar context, we're really interested in studying and modeling after. But at the end of the day, we really see ourselves, I think, and want to position ourselves as being leaders in this space. So you know, we'd like to leapfrog some of those jurisdictions and have them follow us.
Right, that's what I like to hear. Thanks, Derek.
Thank you.
I have also some question for Mike. So we've heard a lot, from the different speakers, how great the support they receive within this city, particularly. So why are you so open to innovation? And is there any risk in that? Isn't just having a city based on innovation?
Yeah, thank you for that. And why are we so open to innovation? I think Summerside's recognized that it obviously has some market weaknesses. And we've decided that we take calculated risks in trying to open up innovation. On a personal note, part of my responsibility is make sure this community continues to grow and diversify and expand. And part of that is taking, I'll call it calculated risks. The other side is surround yourself with amazing people. So Allan mentioned Summerside Exchange Board, and I know that Aspen Kemp's on the call. I know our utility folks are on the call. And so what we try to do is make sure that we make great decisions quickly, effectively, and manage that risk throughout the process. But in all honesty, we're trying to grow our economy, and we see part of growing that economy is through innovation, and we've just decided to leverage that and try and make a difference in the world. So,
Great, thank you. I also have a question from Shani Padai is one of our members here, specifically focusing on solar panels, and he would like to know, is there space restrictions in the city in terms of solar panels? Is it an energy that you use quite often, basically, and is there space restrictions, or because he's got a technology that can, it's like a tree for a solar panel?
Yeah, actually, I think we're deploying some of those tree type solar panels here sometime this year. So space restrictions, not necessarily. The challenge from a municipal standpoint is how do you maximize your land use? And you got to weigh that against the business versus a solar panel. But in our particular case, we're building an 80-acre solar farm currently, and we're actually doing it so on a well field. So when you look at a municipal well field, it supplies water to your citizens and business. Once you develop that field, you can't put anything on top of it. So we try and come up with adaptive reuse opportunities to put that well field solar farm on the well field. We are looking at home and business opportunities for solar. So space is not necessarily an issue. It comes down to managing kind of that portfolio of renewable assets, and then managing kind of the inputs therein. So no, space is not too much of an issue right now.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Moving on to our next speaker, I'm just trying to find a balanced answer so that everybody's got time, to have at least one question and answer it. So, Allan, are you focusing only on clean tech companies for the exchange, or can they be from other companies?
No, we tend to deal probably about 50 to 60% of our client base is clean tech, and that's because of the uniqueness, the meaningful uniqueness of the platform here in Summerside. So you have both power generation renewables as well as distribution. So as Bluwave-Ai has pointed out, that this is a very unique opportunity, if you will, a meaningful, unique opportunity, and one that can replicate and scale into other utilities worldwide. We do deal with food products. We deal with a number of other very unique technologies, everything from smart valves to food-based products to digitizing other assets. So doesn't necessarily have to be clean tech. But we have to be able to add value to the equation. In some cases, just the speed of test, the speed of rollout and learnings is a value to companies that are looking at North America, as opposed to, and I think Debbie said it very well, is from the standpoint is that, we like to do things, we like to get things done, and we don't have a lot of time for people who don't want to do that, frankly. So if you want to get stuff done and we can add value, then we'd like to partner. But also, if we can't add value, then it doesn't make sense to partner. So we move on. So it's good from that standpoint. We like deep partners and folks that we can deal with and wanting to get things done.
Excellent. And a question to all of you that, is it difficult to set up a company in Canada? Because we heard, you know, you're welcoming the companies. It's quite easy in the UK to set up a company. It's more difficult, for example, in the US. What about Canada? And that's, I guess, a question for Allan, Mike, Megan.
So certainly, it's probably one of the easiest processes you go through. And if you look on my Summerside Exchange board, we have a lawyer. You probably get it done for you in 2 hours or less. And the cost is nominal in terms of setting up a business. So that's probably the least of your worries is setting up the business. And in most cases, we'll help you through that process for sure.
Great to hear that. Thanks. Now, if we go down to the case studies and to WindTAK. So great way for you to have a pilot in Canada. Have you done any other pilots? Or do you want to give us a little more ideas about, you know, how easy it was? We heard you were welcome, but you know, compared to Europe, for example.
Sure. Well, particularly the pilot that the first pilot, or one of the pilots that we are preparing and conducted is in Poland, where we are. Canada is just another site, and it just so happens that Wind Energy Institute of Canada is on the island, so it's a perfect early adopter for us. That allows us to test the equipment in new conditions. This is an island, so it's particularly in this business, we can talk about some difficulties with what's called offshore wind, maybe more harsh conditions sometimes, if you would. And we are able to access to things there because people that run these 5 wind turbines are also experts in the field, so they will allow us also to get great amount of feedback. The turbines are connected to the local utility network, so this will provide already a check on how well our devices fit into the new network, not the European one, but one based in Canada. I can tell you that we've made a great deal of conversations with Scott Harper, who's the head of Waken on the island, and he gave us a lot of insight on how the electricity networks work in Canada, how they are different from Europe, how the energy is traded, which is quite important because you need to understand it from the point of view of the client to whom you will be making an offer. So all of this was well served. We had a really great support, and I could not really ask for more. And it's just like Mike and Allan say, things are happening very quickly. You feel their support all the way, and you can always drop in the line or just have a chat and get things uncovered. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Questions for Bluwave for Devashish. Has the experience from what you've done at Summerside City helped you to go to other countries, for example?
Did our experience at Summerside help us to go to other countries?
Yeah, and to sell to other countries or demonstrate what you're doing there? Does that help you to extend?
Absolutely. So there's 2 pieces. One is the credibility building piece to show that the product works, it does what it's supposed to do, it has performance and all of that. The second is having achieved that credibility piece. That's the talking part for the subsequent customers. You actually have to go do something, right? So what the outcome of working with Summerside is the platform's hardened, and specifically the AI models work in the Summerside context for wind, load, solar, pricing context relative to New Brunswick. And basically taking those 4 categories of AI models and redeploying them in Georgia or Scotland or India, it doesn't matter where we deploy them. Now we get exposed to the local data and we just train them up for the local context. So view it as your brain has an AI model for being able to drive around at Summerside, and now you have to go, you get out of the plane, get in your rental car, and then you drive around Scotland, and it's kind of a bit different. You're driving on the other side of the road. You get exposed to the data locally. You know how to drive. Now your new models in your brain are tuned to Scotland deployment, but you need to know how to drive first. So if you stick with that analogy, the AI models have to be able to drive in any environment, in a given environment first, then they can go to new ones and quickly get exposed to the data and become functional there. So it definitely the two things, from a credibility building side and a platform building side, has been instrumental.
Right. Thank you, Devashish. I wish we had more time to ask more questions. But I'm conscious that you may have other meetings, or in the UK you may have other kids to pick up, so dinner to get ready. So what I will say is that if you have any other questions, email Oriane, email myself. We will pass it on to the speakers, or you can also connect directly. Oriane put a Google form online on the chat to be able to reach out to the speakers. Well, what we've learned today is that crossing the Atlantic doesn't mean necessarily going to the US. Canada has really good opportunities. And when I say Canada, I say Canada in general, but also the province of Prince Edward Island, and above all, the city of Summerside. Reach out to them because they can give you great opportunities to enter the Canadian market and therefore the North American market. Test your pilot, test your innovation, your Cleantech solution, and be part of a living lab. So thanks to all the speakers here today, sharing their experience and their skills and knowledge about Canada. Thanks to everyone who attending the webinar. And to everybody, if you have a solution, get in touch with them, and let's go from the UK to Canada. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks very much, Sylvia and Oriane, and everyone else.
Thank you.
And thanks everyone for joining who attended. Is there anything that you need from me, or? Okay.
I think we're good for now. Thank you. Thanks, Meg.